Introduction. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is one of the most influential books ever written on success, ambition, and personal achievement. First published in 1937 and drawn from more than 25 years of research, the book captures the lessons Hill gathered from interviewing over 500 of America's most successful people, including industrial giants, inventors, business leaders, politicians, and innovators. As explained in the publisher's and author's prefaces, the entire philosophy grew from a challenge given to Hill by Andrew Carnegie, who believed success could be broken down into principles anyone could follow if they were willing to think and act with purpose. From the opening pages, the book positions itself not as entertainment, but as a practical manual for people who want a clear, dependable way to reach their goals. The preface warns that the book cannot be skimmed or absorbed quickly. Hill urges readers to study each chapter, reflect deeply, and return to key points repeatedly. The material is meant to be used, not merely read. He also emphasizes that readers should look for a secret hinted at again and again throughout the book, a principle that appears in every chapter and reveals itself only to those who are ready for it. The book argues that success begins with an idea backed by strong desire, faith, persistence, and a willingness to turn thought into organized plans. Hill shows how men like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Charles Schwab, and many others turned intangible thoughts into measurable results by understanding and applying specific mental principles. Real-life stories, such as Edwin C. Barnes, who thought his way into a partnership with Edison, illustrate how determination and clarity of purpose can create breakthroughs that seem impossible to others. Hill also stresses that riches are not limited to money. While financial success is a central theme, he explains that the book's philosophy can produce peace of mind, stronger relationships, spiritual growth, and personal power. The preface highlights that many who applied these principles gained far more than wealth. They gained control over their thoughts, habits, and direction in life. At its core, Think and Grow Rich teaches that individuals become masters of their fate by mastering their minds. The world, Hill suggests, responds to dominant thoughts. A person who fills their mind with purpose, belief, and clear vision attracts matching opportunities. Conversely, a person filled with fear or doubt moves toward failure. This idea threads through every chapter and forms the backbone of the book's 13-step formula. Across its pages, Hill blends psychology, personal development, business logic, and compelling storytelling to deliver a simple message. Achievement begins with thought, but requires action, discipline, and persistence to become real. The book remains a timeless guide for anyone ready to define a goal, commit to it fully, and transform their thinking into success. Section 1. The opening portion of Think and Grow Rich lays the foundation for everything that follows. It begins with the publisher's preface, which explains the scope of Napoleon Hill's work and the depth of research behind it. Hill spent more than 25 years studying over 500 self-made millionaires, examining how they transformed ideas into wealth. The preface stresses that the book is not theory, but a practical philosophy drawn from real achievements, including the personal success formula of Andrew Carnegie, who believed anyone could rise if they adopted the right mental habits. Readers are told that even one idea from this book can change a life, and that riches include more than money. Peace of mind, harmony, relationships, and fulfillment matter just as much as financial gain. The author's preface then tells the origin story of the secret principle that appears throughout the book. Carnegie introduced Hill to this secret early in his career and challenged him to dedicate 2 decades to studying and documenting how successful people use it. Hill accepted and began gathering stories from men like Henry Ford, Charles Schwab, Woodrow Wilson, Thomas Edison, and many others. Hill emphasizes that this secret is never named outright. Instead, it reappears in different forms so that only readers who are mentally prepared will recognize it. The secret has 2 components, one already within the individual and the other discovered through reading and action. Hill claims that everyone who mastered it achieved success, while no one who lacked it ever reached notable achievement. Much of this opening material also introduces the idea that traditional education is not the deciding factor in success. Many great achievers interviewed by Hill had little schooling, yet they reached extraordinary heights by applying desire, purpose, persistence, and clarity of thought. Hill insists that the most powerful beginnings start from an idea backed by conviction. According to him, the book holds principles stronger than what most schools teach, because they focus on how to apply knowledge rather than how to memorize it. Chapter 1 then moves into one of the book's most famous stories, the rise of Edwin C. Barnes, a man who decided he would become a business associate of Thomas Edison. Barnes was not seeking employment. He wanted partnership. With no money and no connections, he rode a freight train to Edison's laboratory and announced his intention. Edison later said Barnes's determination was obvious the moment he walked in, despite his shabby appearance. Barnes did not get the partnership immediately, but he accepted low-level work and waited with unwavering purpose. His chance arrived when Edison developed a new dictating machine that salesmen dismissed as unpromising. Barnes seized the opportunity, sold the device successfully, and earned a nationwide distribution contract. This became the origin of the slogan, "Made by Edison and installed by Barnes." Hill presents this story to show a central truth. When a desire becomes an obsession, backed by persistence and clear purpose, circumstances eventually bend toward that desire. Barnes had no advantage except certainty. That certainty made him alert to opportunity when it appeared in a form no one expected. This section sets the tone for the entire book. It establishes the power of thought, the necessity of a definite purpose, and the idea that success begins the moment a person decides exactly what they want and refuses to quit until they have it. Section 2. The second section of Think and Grow Rich introduces the first two steps in Hill's 13-step formula, desire and faith. Hill calls desire the starting point of all achievement, stressing that every accomplishment begins as a thought that takes root and grows only when fed with intensity, clarity, and purpose. He uses the story of Edwin C. Barnes again to anchor the principle. Barnes did not merely wish to work alongside Edison. He transformed that wish into a definite, burning desire, one strong enough to push him past obstacles and into action. Hill makes it clear that success never comes from vague interests. It requires a sharp, unwavering aim. In this chapter, Hill shifts from storytelling to method. He insists that desire can be turned into its financial equivalent by following a precise process. Decide the exact amount of money you want. Determine what you will give in return. Set a deadline. Create a plan. Write the statement down and read it aloud twice daily while visualizing its accomplishment. The point is to convert thought into a self-imposed command, something the mind begins to accept as reality. According to Hill, this practice awakens emotional energy and conditions the subconscious to seek opportunities aligned with the stated desire. Success, he argues, always begins as an internal shift long before visible progress appears. Hill uses additional stories to illustrate the power of desire. One of the most compelling is the story of his own son, born without normal hearing. Rather than accept this as a permanent limitation, Hill cultivated in his child a belief that he could overcome it. Years later, through determination and experimentation, the boy succeeded in hearing with the help of a hearing device. Hill uses this experience to show that desire backed by belief can transform circumstances that seem impossible. He stresses that many people fail not because their goals are unreachable, but because their desire is weak or conditional. A weak desire leads to hesitation, retreat, and compromise. Strong desire leads to action. Chapter 3 moves into the second principle. Faith, which Hill defines as a state of mind created through affirmation, repetition, and emotional reinforcement. Faith, he says, is the agency that converts desire into belief and belief into results. Hill argues that the subconscious mind accepts repeated thoughts as truth, whether positive or negative. This is why he warns that fear, doubt, and worry can quietly sabotage progress, because they imprint limiting beliefs that the subconscious then interprets as instructions. Conversely, autosuggestion, intentional repetition of positive statements, programs the mind toward confidence and opportunity. Hill presents the famous case of Charles M. Schwab and the formation of U.S. Steel as an example of faith in action. Schwab's bold vision and confidence during a high-stakes meeting persuaded financier J.P. Morgan to support the creation of what became one of the largest industrial corporations in history. Hill describes this moment as a demonstration of how faith transforms intention into influence. According to Hill, people sense conviction. When someone speaks with certainty, others respond. By the end of Section 2, the reader sees how Hill positions desire and faith as a matched pair. Desire sets the direction. Faith fuels the belief that the direction is possible. Without desire, goals lack force. Without faith, goals collapse under pressure. Combined, they create a mental environment where ideas grow into decisions, decisions grow into plans, and plans grow into achievements. Section 3. The third section of Think and Grow Rich moves deeper into the mechanics of how thought becomes reality. Hill argues that desire and faith set the emotional foundation, but the bridge between the conscious mind and real-world achievement is autosuggestion. He calls autosuggestion the medium through which individuals influence their subconscious minds. By repeatedly feeding the subconscious clear statements of desire, supported by emotion, a person programs the deeper mind to act like a magnet that draws opportunities, ideas, and circumstances consistent with the goal. Hill warns that the subconscious works with whatever it receives, including fear or doubt, which means people must guard their thoughts carefully. He stresses reading one's written desire statement aloud daily with feeling, as emotion is the catalyst that makes the subconscious receptive. From autosuggestion, Hill moves to specialized knowledge, the fourth step toward riches. He distinguishes between general knowledge, which is broad but often impractical, and specialized knowledge, which is focused and useful. Hill explains that wealth is created not by education alone, but by applying knowledge to a definite purpose. Many successful people, he notes, never finish school, yet they mastered a particular skill or field deeply enough to solve problems and create value. He underscores that anyone can acquire specialized knowledge through experience, study, or partnerships. This is where Hill introduces the importance of assembling a mastermind group, people whose collective skills and insights strengthen one another. Knowledge, he argues, becomes powerful only when organized into clear plans backed by action. Hill emphasizes that many people make the mistake of waiting until they feel fully prepared before pursuing an opportunity. He insists that the right approach is to start with what one has, then seek knowledge as the journey evolves. This mindset keeps people from being trapped by indecision or perfectionism. He also highlights the value of continuous learning, pointing out that success demands constant refinement and adaptation. Specialized knowledge becomes a lifelong tool rather than a single achievement. Chapter 6 introduces imagination, which Hill describes as the workshop of the mind. All ideas begin as sparks shaped by imagination before they become plans. Hill divides imagination into two types: synthetic imagination, which rearranges existing concepts, and creative imagination, which brings forth new ideas through inspiration or intuition. According to Hill, most successful plans arise from synthetic imagination, but creative imagination is the source of breakthrough innovations. He illustrates this with examples from great leaders and inventors who transformed simple ideas into massive enterprises. Every product, business, or invention began as a thought shaped in the mind. Hill's message is clear: ideas alone are not enough. The imagination must be used deliberately to convert desire into practical plans. He states that imagination needs exercise, much like a muscle. The more one uses it, the stronger and more dependable it becomes. Across these chapters, Hill builds a chain of cause and effect. Desire fuels faith. Faith activates autosuggestion. Autosuggestion influences the subconscious, and the subconscious uses imagination to produce ideas that lead toward a goal. Specialized knowledge then gives those ideas substance. Section 3 shows that success is neither accidental nor mysterious. It is the result of mental conditioning supported by knowledge, creativity, and disciplined thinking. Section 4. Section 4 of Think and Grow. Rich shifts from internal preparation to the outward actions that turn ideas into results. Hill begins with organized planning, which he calls the crystallization of desire into action. Up to this point, the book focuses on forming a clear goal and building the mindset needed to pursue it. Now Hill explains that success demands plans that are practical, flexible, and backed by continuous effort. He encourages readers to assemble a mastermind group, a small circle of people with complementary skills who can help create and refine plans. No individual, Hill argues, succeeds alone. Weak plans lead to temporary defeat, and temporary defeat leads many people to quit. Strong plans evolve through testing and cooperation. In this chapter, Hill outlines the major reasons people fail: lack of persistence, poor organization, unclear goals, procrastination, and unwillingness to follow expert guidance. He insists that even if a plan fails, the goal should not change. People must revise their approach instead of discarding the mission. Hill emphasizes that most people who never succeed simply fail to rebuild plans after the first setback. He uses examples of well-known leaders who achieved success only after multiple reorganizations of their ideas. Organized planning is less about perfection and more about continuous improvement supported by collective intelligence. Hill then moves to decision, the seventh step toward riches. He claims that successful people reach decisions quickly and change them slowly, while unsuccessful people change decisions frequently and with little cause. Indecision is described as a major form of fear, especially the fear of criticism. Hill argues that many people sacrifice opportunities because they fear the opinions of others. This chapter points out that leaders must cultivate independence of thought. Great fortunes have been built by individuals who acted on their own judgment when others hesitated. Hill references his study of the 500 successful individuals who contributed to this philosophy, noting that decisiveness was one of their most consistent traits. The section then transitions into persistence, which Hill defines as sustained effort powered by desire. He warns that without persistence, no plan can survive the challenges that come with progress. Hill explains that failure is often temporary and can serve as feedback, but only persistent individuals benefit from this feedback. He lists the mental habits that strengthen persistence: definite purpose, desire, self-reliance, accurate thinking, willpower, and a supportive mastermind group. These elements create a protective environment that keeps doubt from taking root. Hill reinforces the importance of persistence by showing how adversity reveals personal strength. Many of the success stories throughout the book emphasize that achievement comes one step beyond the point where most people quit. Hill points to R.U. Darby's famous lesson, quitting 3 feet from gold, as the classic example of how close people often are when they stop trying. Persistence transforms failure into strategy, strategy into action, and action into eventual success. Hill states plainly that opportunity often comes disguised as struggle, and only persistent people recognize it. By the end of Section 4, the book's message becomes tactical and direct. Desire inspires vision. Faith strengthens belief. Autosuggestion trains the subconscious. Specialized knowledge supports competence. Imagination creates ideas. But organized planning, decisive action, and persistence are what convert mental preparation into real accomplishment. This section reinforces that success is built through steady, deliberate effort, shaped by clear intention and an unshakable refusal to quit. Section 5. The final section of Think and Grow Rich focuses on the remaining steps toward riches and the mental forces that influence success. Hill begins with the power of the mastermind, explaining that a coordinated alliance of people working toward a shared purpose creates a collective energy that exceeds what any individual can produce alone. He describes the mastermind as a blending of minds that forms a third mind, a source of power, creativity, and momentum. This principle supports earlier chapters by reinforcing that no one rises without cooperation and the organized use of shared intelligence. Hill argues that individuals who align themselves with capable, harmonious partners multiply their potential and accelerate their growth. Next, Hill introduces one of the most debated topics in the book, the mystery of sex transmutation. He claims that sexual energy, when redirected toward achievement, becomes a powerful creative force. According to Hill, the same energy that drives physical expression can fuel ambition, imagination, and productivity when transformed into mental or spiritual output. Many successful men, he notes, achieved their greatest accomplishments after learning to channel this energy toward purpose rather than impulse. Hill emphasizes that emotion, especially when tied to love or desire, intensifies thought and gives ordinary ideas the power to move people to action. He presents this chapter as a challenge for readers to recognize the strength of their emotional nature and use it intentionally. Hill then moves into the subconscious mind, calling it the connecting link between desire and its physical form. The subconscious, he explains, receives all thoughts charged with emotion and translates them into their material equivalents. It does not judge or filter. It simply acts on what dominates the mind. This is why Hill stresses monitoring emotional states closely, since negative emotions can sabotage progress. The subconscious responds most strongly to repeated thoughts backed by belief, making it essential to feed it deliberately through affirmations, imagination, and disciplined concentration. In the chapter on the brain, Hill describes it as a broadcasting and receiving station for thought. He suggests that the mind operates through vibrations and can pick up ideas, inspiration, and impressions from others. Hill argues that the brain becomes more sensitive when energized by strong emotions like desire, faith, and love. This increased sensitivity enhances creativity and improves a person's ability to attract opportunities aligned with their goals. Although metaphoric in tone, the chapter reinforces the importance of mental conditioning and emotional energy. The 12th step, the sixth sense, is described as the door to the temple of wisdom. Hill treats it as an intuitive faculty that develops only after mastering the preceding principles. He claims that through meditation, reflection, and mental clarity, individuals begin to receive insights that guide their decisions. This sixth sense cannot be forced. It emerges gradually as one's thoughts become more disciplined and aligned with purpose. Hill acknowledges that this concept is difficult to grasp, but he includes it to show the deeper layers of mental development possible when the mind is trained. The final chapter, How to Outwit the Six Ghosts of Fear, identifies the emotional obstacles that prevent people from acting on their desires. The fears of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. Hill explains the symptoms of each fear and shows how they weaken persistence, distort thinking, and trigger procrastination. He encourages readers to analyze themselves honestly and replace fear with confidence through awareness, purpose, and repetition of positive thoughts. The message is clear: fear is the final enemy of achievement, and mastering it unlocks all prior principles. Across these final chapters, Hill completes the architecture of his philosophy. He shows that achievement is not merely action or intellect, but a deliberate shaping of thought, emotion, environment, and belief. The principles build toward a fully developed mind capable of transforming desire into its physical form. Conclusion. Think and Grow Rich closes by bringing together all 13 principles into a unified philosophy of success. Hill's message is that riches, whether financial, emotional, or spiritual, are not accidents. They are outcomes created by people who learn to shape their minds with intention. From the first chapter to the last, the book argues that every achievement begins with a definite purpose, a clear direction strong enough to ignite desire and push a person through obstacles. Barnes's determination to work with Edison and Darby's lesson from stopping 3 feet from gold both illustrate how unwavering desire shapes destiny. Hill emphasizes that faith powered by autosuggestion turns desire into belief. When belief becomes fixed, it influences the subconscious mind, which in turn guides actions and perceptions. He explains that the subconscious does not judge. It accepts repeated thoughts as instructions. This is why affirmations, visualization, and emotional reinforcement play such central roles. The mind responds to what it is fed, and people become what they allow themselves to think. Knowledge, imagination, and organized planning form the practical side of the philosophy. Hill stresses that knowledge must be specialized and applied with purpose, not collected for the sake of appearance. Imagination provides the ideas, while planning converts those ideas into steps. Decision and persistence then hold those steps in place. Hill's examples show that leaders act decisively, adapt without losing sight of their goal, and persevere long after others quit. These qualities separate those who succeed from those who surrender to fear or doubt. In the later chapters, Hill expands the concept of personal power through the mastermind, sex transmutation, the subconscious, the brain's energy, and the sixth sense. These ideas may appear abstract, but Hill frames them as extensions of the same principle. The human mind becomes powerful when directed with emotion, purpose, and harmony. He presents the sixth sense as the final stage of development, a form of intuition that emerges only after the other principles are mastered. The book concludes by identifying fear as the greatest barrier to success. The 6 basic fears, poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death, limit people more than circumstances do. Hill asks readers to confront these fears honestly, understanding that fear weakens thought, drains desire, and breaks persistence. Overcoming fear restores mental freedom, allowing the principles of success to operate without resistance. In the end, Hill's philosophy can be summed up simply: you become the master of your fate when you become the master of your mind. The book teaches that thoughts, when supported by desire, faith, focus, and consistent action, grow into achievements. Hill's work remains enduring because it offers not just motivation, but a clear system for turning inner intention into outward success.